There's been much interest from the public in the discovery, which is believed to date back to Gibraltar's Spanish period. A recent lecture at the University of Gibraltar attracted a record attendance. The site, where the remains were found, was previously used as a hospital for sailors, and researchers are excited because the high number of young male remains is apparently very unusual.
I think it's a really significant find in terms of the history of Gibraltar. It's a very unexpected find. I think people here thought there could be some burials up at the old St Bernard's Hospital, but didn't realise that there were quite this many, and certainly the historical documents don't really give us any clues that they were there.
So what do you know so far about these people and how they lived and died?
Analysis of the human remains is ongoing, but a large proportion of them seem to be young men, and that's really unusual. It's one of the things that makes it a really exciting find, because most cemeteries you expect to have lots of babies, because infant mortality was high in the past, and then a lot more individuals who are sort of at the end of their natural life. We're also getting some insight into aspects of their health, so it seems like a lot of them were pretty active. There's evidence in their spine and in some of the joints of sort of heavy activity, things that we'd expect for this period as well, so poor dental health. And we have some evidence of injuries, but mostly they were ones that had healed, things like fractures to bones of the hand, to the ribs, and also a couple of instances potentially of surgery, which could fit with it being a hospital site. And finally, evidence of infections that people suffered during life. Some of them we can't pin down to specific diseases, but we have probably got a couple of cases of what would have been syphilis, so that's very interesting.
I've heard that you're also analysing other artefacts that were found here on site. What do these tell you about the way these people lived and their cultural significance?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's quite complicated to interpret the other things like the ceramic and the metalwork, because in many cases they're not actually objects that were necessarily put in the grave with the individuals or associated with that burial, but were perhaps in the ground already. So the excavations at the site actually showed that there was probably a Moorish building there. We have some walls and a floor as well, which was previously not known. And although analysis at sort of a very preliminary stage, there's been some very interesting finds, things like a couple of coins from the Spanish period. So we're really excited to see what comes out of the analysis of all the other finds.
And what are your thoughts on the historical importance of the rock, kind of in general, because there's so much history around here? It must be fascinating for you.
Absolutely, and it's such an interesting place, sort of geographically, politically, and in terms of sort of trade networks, even going back quite a long way, you know, to the Roman period or before. And so from that point of view, it's a real place of interaction, of major changes in population, a real complex history, but a fascinating one. And for me, it would be absolutely wonderful if we can kind of contribute a little piece to that history through this project.
The partnership with the University of Cambridge is one that both sides hope to continue going forwards, with those involved keen to learn more about the burial ground. And with the amount of remains found, they certainly have a lot of analysing to do before we can fully understand the site and the historical and cultural implications.